All right, let's do this. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hillary Hebert. As Jason mentioned, I'm a California regulatory policy nerd. I represent Clean Tech San Diego, leading and working with our energy-focused members, mostly just trying to keep tabs on the procurement issues in our region, especially as CCAs have emerged and started to take Holy Spirit. I also am a consultant for developers who are trying to build projects anywhere in California and don't want to go to CAISO stakeholder processes. Sorry, I actually love it, so call me. We're here today with three really expert panelists who are trying to build projects here in the San Diego region, projects and programs to help our region and increase clean energy in our region. We have Colin Walsh, who is Senior Vice President of Sales for IV Energy, very cool business model that I'll tell you about. We have Tanya Martinez, who is Senior Director of Development for AES, also working on some really large-scale projects here in the San Diego area. And Andy Gallagher, who's Director of Programs, Virtual Power Plants, or Baker Home Energy, one of our largest behind-the-meter solar providers in the region. So we at the panel is focused on, clean energy in the San Diego region. What's the state of how are we doing, and some of the challenges. So these folks are going to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their companies and what they're doing here, and then we'll dig in with some questions and we'll leave some time for IS Q&A. So think of your questions as we go. All right, Colin, do you want to kick us off?
Actually, Tanya's going to go first.
Oh, Tanya, do you want to kick us out? Sure, I'm on to. What is that? Can you not sons?
Yes, sure. Oh, main passing.
Hello, what is that?
It's a very good.
Who is thinking it with the bird?
That bit of something when that lapis. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Martinez, the Senior Director of Development for AES Clean Energy. I manage the development of our renewable energy projects here in California and on tribal lands. I'm going to introduce our company and talk a little bit about some of our challenges with interconnection and deliverability. So next slide, please. So AES Clean Energy is an independent power producer. We develop, construct, own, and operate renewable energy projects throughout the U.S. We have 1,300 employees. We have 545 projects deployed in 24 states. We currently have 5.1 gigawatts of renewable energy projects in operation in the state and a 51 gigawatt pipeline. So it's just it's a congested. So Fluence, our sister company, it's a joint venture with Siemens, was recognized in 2021 as the #1 integrator of utility-scale energy storage systems by Guidehouse Insights. We have been recognized for our commitment to sustainability, and we are proud to be recognized by Bloomberg as, in the second year in a row, as the #1 seller of clean energy corporations. So we've been developing energy projects here in the state since 1989. We've been deploying natural gas resources, serving California's needs for reliable power. And more recently, we've deployed over 1.5 gigawatts of solar that are energy storage and wind energy resources here in the state. We currently have 2.2 gigawatts of energy projects in construction in the state. As for San Diego, we're currently developing a 400 megawatt standalone storage project. That facility will provide enough stored energy to power nearly 300,000 homes for our basis in the 4-hour systems, standalone storage systems we're currently deploying for the most part. It will support the state's need for electric grid reliability, and it will provide flexibility to adapt to current and future demand and enable California's aggressive goals to be 100% renewable by 24/5. That's that. So Mark spoke to most of this slide. I think most of you are aware of Senate Bill 100. That's our goal to be 100% renewable by 2045. We're also phasing out our once-through cooling plants. So this is a graphical depiction of how we're going to get there, deploying 7,000 megawatts per year through 2040. This shows you the fuel mix or the energy mix of solar, wind, offshore wind, battery, biomass, geothermal, and pumped hydro, how we're going to get there over the next 20 years in the state. So I'd just like to speak to what developers look for when we're prospecting for utility scale projects. So first and foremost, we need land, buildable land. That's affordable, and that can be hard to find in the state. Land is expensive. You'd be surprised how long it takes us to secure land for our projects, but sometimes it can take years for us to secure land for some of our projects. Environmental impacts. We strive to minimize all of our environmental impacts for our projects. It's the right thing to do, and it also makes the project more competitive too. Ability to permit. We want to build projects where we think we can secure permits. And I will say with battery energy storage, it's a relatively new technology for the state. So education is crucial for the success of our projects, not only for the HJs, but also the communities as well. There's a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to battery energy storage. Interconnection network upgrade costs. Because there's so much competition here, so many projects here, great market, there's network upgrade costs and interconnection costs can be costly, so that's another thing we take into consideration when we're siting our projects. Deliverability, need to deliver power, and then lastly, energy market. I will say, for the most part, if we build it, it will come. Here in California, the market here is just one of the best in the country. But at the same time, you have to have a competitive price. And as we're opening up new markets to be able to serve California, maybe cheaper resources, having a competitive price for your project is the utmost importance. That's fun. In terms of interconnection challenges, deliverability challenges, like I said, interconnection queue is overwhelmed. Right now, everybody and their mother are in the state developing projects, and we're blowing up the grid, y'all. So that is one of our biggest challenges is the competition, blowing up the grid, and properly siting our projects. So with that, we're seeing extensive schedules to bring our projects online. I mean, some of our projects are 2023 COD or 2033 CODs with some of the transmission upgrades that are projected to be able to deliver our power. There's uncertainty too with deliverability. We have a bunch of projects. We're spending a lot of money. We're investing a lot of money here on these projects, and we don't know if we're going to be able to deliver the power from these projects. So there's that too. Hopefully over time there'll be more certainty with deliverability. But that's where we're at right now. Securing buildable land where capacity is available. So in some remote regions of the state where nobody is, there's you can deliver your power, but you might not be able to permit your project, or there might not be buildable land for your project. So there's that as well. Also, securing transmission line easements for your projects is also a challenge. So you might have land a couple miles, 2 to 3 miles for your point of interconnection, or 5 miles or whatever, but you might not be able to get the gen-type easements to plug into that substation or your point of interconnection. Like I said, it's highly competitive. Sometimes we're in areas where we're all there fighting for the same easements, and the landowners, local landowners, it's a gold mine for them, and they do exploit us. And that'll break your economics too. I mean, if a landowner wants millions of dollars for an easement or for their land for that matter, that just kind of kills the economics in the project too. So there's that as well. We're having to put more money at risk as developers for this project. And then lastly, as deliverability gets allocated, for projects, the future of some of our other projects might look a little bleak. Sorry. That's it in a nutshell, summary of our challenges as developers in this state, and together we are accelerating the future of our energy. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Tanya. Great overview. I think we're going to have each of them do their overview and get into some questions for each of them. So, and Andy is that Nevis with Baker.
Mic check. Morning, everybody. I am Andy Gallagher. I'm the product innovation manager at Baker Home Energy. Baker, if you don't know, is a local residential solar and storage installer. We're usually number 1 or 2 in market share in San Diego County. We've been around since 1938. And residential solar began in 2007. So we're the elder states of agriculture. So what I basically want to talk about today is there was that big transition in April where we went from net energy to NEM2 to NEM3, or net building tariff. I'll call it NBT in this, but it's kind of the new world order for how things are. So a little doom and gloom of where things are at. It's quite a transition. And then kind of the reasons why that's happening, and then what we see for residential solar and storage moving forward. Like you see on the screen, these numbers come from CalSA, the California Solar and Storage Organization. Interconnections down 60 to 80% year over year. For the industry itself, we've gone through a little over 70,000 layoffs across the state. So we're looking at about 22% reduction in labor. And then Baker has reflected those as well. So sales are down, not quite to state levels, but everything is less than it was in the previous years. And also we recently went through our own labor reduction. So, but again, I think a lot of companies are figuring out how to weather this, but we don't see it as the end. We really kind of see a bit of a transition. So we can go to the next slide. Some of the basic reasons why we're seeing this is that a lot of customers were brought forward. Customers that would normally sign over a given year, we sold about a year's worth of work in the first 3 months of last year. Nobody slept, but it was what it needed to be. So that was a lot of it. The other is the fundamental structure of the net billing tariff. Fundamentally, we're looking at slightly smaller solar systems and nearly always paired with a battery. The inclusion of that battery usually means a higher upfront cost, not much, but slightly. And we're looking at longer paybacks than we typically had under net 2 days. And then additionally, with that higher upfront cost, including the battery, interest rates certainly are validating the situation. So it's kind of the perfect storm. But again, we made it through it. I'll go to the next one. But again, what we're seeing is that I think there's a lot of growth. It's much more, we're now battery companies that also install solar as well. Previously, attachment rates were between 15 and 20%. And now it's 90. It's effectively going to be 100% moving forward of customers that will need a battery to keep all of their energy on site, fundamentally because there's not very much advantage to pushing that energy back to the grid. What we're also seeing is that, like any industry in a transition like this, costs are coming down. So that's material costs from our suppliers as well as our prices to customers. We're all kind of readjusting and figure out the new price points that's going to meet where we're currently at. And then, as we all know, electrification of everything, particularly led by EVs, is definitely going to, I think, influence customers' decisions that, yes, I got the EV, my bill went up, how are we going to solve this looking forward? So ultimately, there is something here. There will be more electricity required, and there will be more pain for the customers that they'll need to find solutions for. So we see plenty there moving forward. Another other things, just super high level that I'm seeing in the industry is that there's more integrated solar and storage systems together. Previously, you might pick one company for your solar panels, a second company for your microinverters, and a third company for your battery. Now more companies have a whole integrated system. It can be nicer for the customer's interaction with it, a single app, for example, but then it also decreased costs. Particularly, we're looking at DC coupled batteries. So in some ways, we're kind of looking back at what standard string inverters were doing in years past. But with that and with other smaller advancements, we have significantly lower labor time. There's some in the past, jobs that we're taking maybe 2 days are getting down to 1 day, and in some cases, we can do multiple jobs in a day. There's some really interesting advancements coming out about speeding up the labor time required. Another thing that we're noticing is that, like Bart was talking about, the grid services available. Baker has been running a virtual power plant in partnership with Sonnen for about a year and a half. I've got a couple of quotes from customers on the screen. Fundamentally, they've been more open to sharing their energy than I think we originally anticipated. Again, it takes a lot of education to the customer, but it is promising to see. And then there's also the space for customers just learning why their bills are so high. Awareness of their energy, which on my appliance is contributing the most to my bill. There's a lot of movement there in the space, so people are aware. And then this is the final slide. As we're looking forward, the community choice aggregators, certainly specific to California, really have a lot of power and a lot of very interesting ability to make decisions and move their own, like making your own rates. They're able to make their own decision about that NEM2 to net billing tariff transition, and they've made some very interesting decisions there. There's also there's 1.8 million, I believe, residential solar installations in the state of California, and those customers also will be going through their own increasing energy needs, and there's some available adder systems that we can give to them. One of them is to give more panels if their inverter is already maxed, and then another is what's called a non-export system. I think this will be coming maybe middle of the year once we figure out the logistics of it. But basically, you put on a new large solar system, a lot of panels to your existing solar system, pair it with a battery, and then don't export that extra to the grid. It's something that is technically allowed in the ruling, but we're figuring out how the utilities are actually going to implement it. That's why there are question marks. And then, like we mentioned before, electrification is really the dominant things moving forward. That's all we have at the moment. Thank you, Catherine.
Comment that. So one thing I wanted to share about this panel that I forgot to say is that we are lucky to have both the transition level projects and distribution level projects represented on this panel. So those perspectives together is trying to be of it. So you might have heard some discrepancies in the interconnection and things like that. We can dig into the questions, but.
And we actually operate in more of the commercial space, but more multi-unit, multi-family. IG is actually a software company, so we kind of bridge the gap, the ability to fill tenants, so non-owner occupied, with the residential, and you're saving your own money on your house, or if you want a building and you're paying the electricity bill, so that makes sense. There was that gap though. If you own the building, you're renting it out between tenants or residents, the incentive to install solar didn't really exist. You're not able to get at least some portion back from that electric savings. So let's get next slide. So speaking of that, I'm going to be speaking, we're focused a lot in multifamily, so a lot of large apartment buildings, but also multi-unit, so retail centers, and that's really where we operate. So in this case, with the savings from what the utility rate was versus what on-site use solar, you're going to create that margin, but in multifamily, you really only were able to save your own house common area costs. What we do is open up that 85% of the apartment building usage that is the resident usage and make it a win-win where you some savings that are passed along to the residents while the owner actually gets to create some NOI, get ROI on that investment, and increase the market value. So next slide. So from a policy perspective, we spoke a little bit about the transition from NEM 2.0 to 3.0. But one of the big things, Ivy's been around for about 5 years now. In late 2019, the CPUC came out with Rule 20-60, and what that did was, especially in the residential space, allow owners to open up short-term PPAs with their residents. So they actually had the ability to charge for the solar energy that's produced on site. Prior to that, I grew up in real estate. You ask an owner, are you going to deal with utilities? The answer is no, definitely not. Residents versus owners. In California, residents are going to win, right? So California needed some reason for the 50% of people that rent to actually have access to solar energy. And part of that was they realized owners needed to be able to recoup the cost. So that's where Ivy came in with the software behind that. Right. So we can actually move on to the next one. I know we got sure no time. From just a pure NOI perspective, we're looking at a property as a whole, really round numbers here. 100 units and everyone's saying $100 on average for electricity. You install that solar, and we leverage a tall virtual net metering, 3 IOUs. And what that allows you to do is reduce that total bill, in this case, from $10,000 down to the $1,000 that's left over. That margin is what you're going to create for the property. So if you pass along a portion of that savings, in this case, $900 to the residents, everyone has a $9 savings on their bill, they're happy. You're able to collect the $9,100, $1,000 so goes back to the utilities, and that $8,100 becomes NOI. It's essentially a variable rent addition, and that NOI translates directly into market value addition. So instead of the Title 24 requirements that we're seeing a lot on these multifamily buildings, we're having a lot of developers that are starting to come to us saying, I have $1.5 million worth of solar that I have to install. My common area system probably would have been 1/5 of that. So now what do I do with that extra energy? And now instead of just essentially giving it away or trying to raise rents at an unknown amount, Ivy is allowed to build up to basically the utility rates with that pass of discount to the resident. So it's a win for everyone involved. Ownership gets to make money, and development costs in this environment, not the best at 6 to 8%. As somebody yesterday just told me, yeah, the money's not free anymore. So we need to find NOI where we can. From the grid perspective, virtual net metering, if you're not familiar with it, the reason that it's so important in this environment is that when you have one large industrial building with one tenant and one meter, you have a big flat roof, you build a solar system, you connect directly to the meter. That's not that difficult. When you have 400 meters with 8 different buildings on an apartment site, connecting directly to each meter, running conduit to every single residential meter, along with additional monitoring that would be required there, becomes really difficult. It adds a lot of costs. So what virtual net metering, if you're not familiar with it, you're able to build a system interconnect at multiple points anywhere on the parcel. And then after the fact, you're able to virtually allocate those credits to meters as long as they're on the same site. What this does is really allow multifamily and multi-unit buildings to build large systems efficiently. With ID, if you're able to charge back, make that NOI, you are able to actually make money. It makes sense to invest in this. And from California's perspective, that's a lot of roof space that if there wasn't an ability to install solar effectively, it would make it very, very hard. Now, they have the stick approach, which is Title 24. You just have to do it. And so they're dealing with that. But of the entire existing portfolio and in these buildings, we need some incentive for them to actually do that. And everyone likes to be green, but in the real estate world, the green that matters is, can we actually pay back for this? So that's really where this entire ecosystem helps. And then from the utilities perspective as well, we're bringing power a lot closer to, this is not solar that's in the desert, it still has to get transmitted all the way to your building in downtown San Diego. You do build it actually on site, and it allows for the addition of on-site energy production. And that's it.
Great, thank you guys. Great, goodness. And we definitely has to decide for comments and questions. So one of the things I loved about this panel is that we need everything, right? Mark mentioned we use 7,000 megawatts per year. So we're going to need like everybody's idea of how to get there. So I like that we representing totally different ways to add energy. Mark also mentioned in his opening remarks, reliability has been a big concern for Californians over the past few years, and especially at the end of the day and evening when the sun's going down, it's not available. Can you just talk about how your projects contribute to reliability? And you talked about it a little bit, but if you could focus on that a little bit more, and supporting the grid.
All right. I would say I mentioned the virtual power plant that we're participating in. So any sort of load shaping that happens obviously is helpful for reliability. We're avoiding those spikes. We're easing the pressure for peaker plants to need to come on as much. But those are talking about a certain brand of batteries that are functionally participating in grid services. But behind that, any time that you get a battery, even if it's not reporting or participating in grid services, it's helping the grid. It is storing the excess energy from your solar, not pushing it back on the grid, and then using it at night. So even if it's not formally in something reportable, the addition of a residential battery at scale absolutely helps load shaping. You break it. That's one.
From our perspective, one reason we were actually funded by a CalC grant and focus a little more on the overall landscape, especially because this isn't an ideally selling to somebody. But what we do is we actually produce a bill for each resident or tenant. Not only does it show what they use, why they're paying what they're paying, it makes it very clear that their bill without solar on site would have been $100 or $118.12. But what we also do is offer a lot of insights on how to reduce their bill and their usage, not just the overall cost, but how they're using energy. The way that we allocate the savings is not a flat distribution of a percentage off of your bill. It's actually aggregated as a whole for the property, and then your portion of that savings as a resident or tenant is based on how low you are using the solar. So the more effectively you're using when solar is available on site, the more you're going to save. That's not to mean your bill's going to get cut in half, but just that even 1% of usage transferring from 8 p.m. to noon as people are working from home, eventually push notification, hey, solar's available, run your dishwasher. You don't need to run it at 8 p.m. It's going to save you money and will also save your money because you're using that solar live. Batteries will also be play here as we move into live usage, either at municipal value or at score getting a lot lower. So giving people insight, because as of now, I think most people look at their bill, does it make sense, and then they pay it. They'll really think about when they're using electricity. We want to offer them that ability to be able to alter their behavior and get something.
Yeah, so I will say for AES, all of our projects now include a battery energy storage component, whereas maybe like 5 years ago we were building, developing solar only. Now it's either solar plus storage or standalone storage. And I will say we're proud to be a part of mitigating some outages last year in September when one of our battery storage plants is in commissioning and is coming online, and PUC called us up and they're like, hey, can we use this? We need you. And so it made us very proud as a company to help California mitigate an outage during peak energy conditions. And the battery energy storage project we're developing here in San Diego, it's a 400 megawatt project. It's a pretty substantial project that will directly serve the needs for reliability in San Diego as well. And that project that was in commissioning last year, that was in LA County. So we're excited to be a part of serving California's very much needed needs for grid reliability and transitioning us off of fossil fuels.
Great, thank you guys for doing the things you do to help.
Thank you.
lot more, but okay. On this, so Tanya, you mentioned that at the just like transmission level, like when Hebert and poor Mark can't keep up, but he does fix it. I want to focus a little bit on our distribution level. So maybe Chris said, Colin and Andy, could you guys, how's it going on the distribution level as far as interconnections, reliability, deliverability issues?
It's the recent VNM agreement definitely plays. I'll let you speak to that. But the regulatory rules that we've got to jump through are defunct and ever changing. I think Colin can speak to the recent changes that we're going through there. But I think additionally, just where do you put a battery? Honestly, does it fit in a garage? Does it fit outside? Can it live outside? Is it in the sun? There's just a lot of, and even LA County specifically has written, so the state of California has the building code, but then LA County wrote their own more stringent rules about where batteries can and can't go. It's this part of the garage wall and not this part of the garage wall. And so that's certainly been a hurdle, and just figuring out how we're going to put this stuff there. But I went to that.
VNM, like I said, it's actually been around since about 2012. It wasn't used once again because there wasn't a new way to monetize it as much. But in recent years, with new Title 24 requirements, that's really the only way to do it effectively on a forward heating out on the complex. But as a result, you have a lot of installations and a lot of installers that never had to do VNM, and now they are doing this. So it's a new process for a lot of people. We've had the April 14th that mine is spoke about, and then a lot of the policy work that we're involved with heavily at IEBs, had VNM that was recognized as more of a separate than a behind the meter, and so it took a little longer to get the VNM 3 policy created, which means that there's another deadline at February 14th. So as I'm sure they're dealing with interconnection agreements, there's a lot more than just a normal January or a February because these deadlines have grandfathering periods. So I think it's hard on both sides. It's definitely a lot for the utilities to have to deal with all at once. But what I will say in their defense is that they actually have been pretty reasonable, especially with the amount of extra workload that can add that was just thrust upon them from those policy changes. But it's tough for everybody involved, but it definitely helps on overall stuff.
Sounds like both levels, distribution and transition, it's just a lot of volume for people to get through. One more question from me. Since we're in San Diego and we're a San Diego organization, is there anything about doing this work in the San Diego region as opposed to other parts of the state that are better, more complicated, more challenging, or some other?
Well, there's a lot of sun. I came from Ohio, and it's nice down here where there's a lot of that, so that certainly helps. There's also, UCSD and the other universities out here, and legitimately Cleantech San Diego and the members, there's a lot of brilliant minds really trying to solve it. So not to $2 an hour, but it's for the organizations. But me too.
Yeah, I would say on the utility scale side, San Diego is similar to other counties where there's a ton of development here. So it just kind of takes a little bit longer to permit and develop a project here, it's great. There's so much development here. As a developer, it just, adds time to your permitting process, I'd say.
We're a San Diego-based company as well. We're downtown as our offices. So a lot of our projects are in this area. In California, just overall, is generally been our star when it comes to solar green adoption. And they're also the most stringent when it comes to development requirements, which makes it important to have some reason, some way to monetize that. And then San Diego is pretty expensive, which, if you're paying your own bill, it's not as great, but if you are making a margin on every single kilowatt hour that you're able to produce on site, economics, with a 65% IRR, a lot easier to sell than Ohio, where it's a struggle to get to a 4%. So from a pure just economic standpoint, California has higher utility rates, which means there's a lot more availability to make money and have this project make sense. So
The first good thing I've heard about are high rates.
Any questions from the audience? Quick. Yeah.
How? For Colin, I'm actually just curious for idea and she's on so Georgia the animals like in leaves. How much are you I guess working with affordable housing to it's not as about as they need. Outside and there go a lot of work on solar for land customers. Are you guys figuring out we forward with behind on both?
yeah, so affordable is its own area with a lot of differences. If you deal in both market rate and affordable, you know all of the different red tape. A lot of those protections are in place
Or to make sure the residents
are going to have a good experience. Most of the multifamily solar up until about 2-3 years ago, almost all of it was on the affordable side because of the MASH and SOMA funding. But part of the requirements there was you have to pass all the benefit along to the residents, and you get essentially funded a portion of yours common area system, and that's why it made sense. But specifically, you can't even operate in that because California, smartly so, hey, we paid for your solar, if you charge people for it now. And so from our perspective, we actually do work with
seriously the largest affordable owners in California. And in reality, it depends on where you're operating. Every city, county, area of the state is going to be different based on what the requirements are. But in San Diego specifically, it just means that you have a lower top end rate that you can charge. So care rates are going to be about 30% less. But for all intents and purposes, it operates like another market rate government area would be for us. So it really depends. You're not able to charge anything more than someone would have paid had solar not been on site, and that's the most important thing. That's why it exists. You can't just guess at utility bills. You actually use their renewable data, the rate schedules that they qualify for. So affordability, the economics rate a little bit, and then it's just a lot more red tape that you deal with on those projects, but it's a massive portion. And moving forward, everyone knows it's going to become the way prices are for houses and in California in general. It's a big market that we're definitely not ignoring, and we want to bring it to them as well.
Rachel, thanks for that question. All right, we got to stay on time and move on. Heather.
Really quick, Colin, as a follow-up, the split incentive problem doesn't just exist in MFR, it also exists in commercial, in terms of REITs, et cetera. Does Ivy work in that space at all, or are you looking to?
Yeah, so we're any multi-unit.
Okay.
Multifamily was initially our focus, but Blackstone always a lot of things. So if they want a retail center as well, we work in any building with multiple meters where you have an incentive problem and you want to install solar. So a lot of retail centers here, HG Fenton is I think actually the largest solar by square foot owner in San Diego. Their entire commercial portfolio is going solar and using Ivy as well for their tenants. So we're valued on a per unit basis, so a little less incentive for us to go after that market, but we definitely operate in it. And most people don't, all asset classes, when you get stopped, I will make a raise.
Awesome. Hillary, thank you. Panelists, thank you.